This is the Prosper Group Week in Review podcast. Each week, we take a look at what is happening in digital advocacy and politics with a right of center focus. Welcome to the podcast. My co-host is Caroline Alexander, and I'm Dan Huber. Today, we'll touch on text messaging, campaign staff, and small dollar fundraising. Caroline, it's the end of the month. Is everything set with our candidates' fundraising pushes?
Oh yeah, and a month is tomorrow, so we made sure all the emails are scheduled out. We have social posts that are being out, also some text messages out, so getting all the things up and running. A few themes that we like to really push on in a month that I think it's important to touch on is one, it's April of off year, so things can tend to feel a little slow. So if you want a sense of urgency, you can always bounce off some special elections that are happening. Like I know there's one in Texas right now. So if you can feed off that urgency, if you have Win Red, you can always do splits with them. That always helps. Any kind of sense of push is always very helpful for end of month. Also, timely topics always perform well. Like Maxine Waters is going all out right now. We have a ton of stuff with her that's working. Biden's address last night, that's a big one. Anything that's timely and that doesn't feel stale at the moment, really important to use and bounce off that. And speaking of, what are we seeing in social listening?
Yeah, that's great. Obviously, we're right at the end of Biden's first 100 days. So we'll get to that in a second, but certainly relates to what you're talking about, what we're seeing with the messaging and email and small dollar fundraising. So, every day at the beginning of the day, we send out the AM rundown powered by social listening from the Prosper Group. And that's meant to help political and campaign professionals stay on top of the conversation online and stay informed. So here's some information, or here's what we've been following the past week. We've seen a couple things really kind of jump up over the last several days. And part of that just has to do with what's going on in the political cycle. John Kerry is one that's kind of blown up on the scene. Probably not a huge surprise for anyone that's following the news. With the release of information to Iran about Israel, we've seen about an increase of 1,507% over the past week in conversation related to John Kerry. So pretty substantial increase in volume there. Again, another no surprise is the 100 days, and particularly related to Biden's joint session of Congress. We record on Thursdays, so obviously that was just last night and is right in the middle of the news cycle right now. One thing that's really popped up, and it's really just been the last 3 days, if you look at the hashtag Let Taiwan Help, there's a bipartisan push to let Taiwan participate in the World Health Organization's World Health Assembly. That went from 0 mentions 3 days ago to more than 33,000 tweets. So, that's a pretty significant and growing thing. And in a time when there's not a whole lot that's going on that has bipartisan support on the Hill, that's something that we're seeing on both the right and the left. The other thing that we've seen a lot of growth with in the last week, 587% growth. The Census, we saw about 188,000 tweets over the last week. And that's really driven by the news coming out about reapportionment. 7 states are losing seats, including New York and California. And all the reports seem to point towards Republicans benefiting, or at least states that tend to be Republican benefiting more. Texas in particular is gaining 2 seats there. The conversations we've been watching, police is down 55% this past week. I think that's kind of, with the news that came out last week, we had a big push, and I think it's going to be a little quieter there. But yeah, that's really what we've got going on in social listening that we're really paying attention to right now. That comes out every morning, the AM rundown by social listening from the Prosper Group. anyone who listens to the podcast is interested can sign up at prospergroupcorp.com/AM rundown. That goes out Monday through Friday during the work week at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. So check that out.
Yeah, check that out because that can also help with some in a month ideas if you need it for your fundraising.
Yeah, and it's perfect for, sorry, I was going to say it's perfect for that major theme conversation too, because we really pay attention to what's being said on both the left and the right.
Yes, definitely. So what else do we have going on?
Well, as I said, we're recording this Thursday, late Thursday, but not late enough that the AAPC, American Association Political Consultant Poly Awards have occurred yet. So that's going to happen later tonight. And we expect news out tonight and tomorrow about the big winners there. Congratulations to all of the political and campaign professionals who were nominated and the winners. But the big news or the big thing that we shared this week, so we've been working on a blog post, really sharing information about campaign staff and the 7 essential roles for campaigns. Really talks about how you should structure a campaign, the roles that you really need to plan in order for your campaign to run smoothly. And that's up now on the blog. We just posted that this morning. I would encourage you to check it out, share it with anyone who's a prospective candidate, or maybe someone who has a local smaller campaign is looking to take the next step. There's a lot of good information there, and if you have any suggestions, we'd love to hear that too. So turning the page, every week we talk about the digital action item of the week. Caroline, what do we have coming up for the next week?
Yeah, so last week, the goal was to prepare in a month fundraising, and I hope you guys are doing that since that's tomorrow. It's really important to get that out. I emphasized that last week, but just want to re-emphasize that. So this week, we want you all for the digital action item to be, if you aren't already in text messaging, this is your sign to go and get a part of it. Sign up. Whether that be short code or peer-to-peer, it's important for your small dollar fundraising. It's really booming right now. We have a blog post that we've written about the differences between peer-to-peer and short code, and Prosper Group is always happy to help you identify the different approaches that you can have and work with on that. So that's the goal for next week.
Yeah, that's great. I know that's kind of peer-to-peer fundraising as well as SMS texting and MMS for anyone who wants to get really technical. There's a lot of opportunities there and growing and changing environment. So that's great. Well, that's all Caroline and I have for the week. So we'd like to thank you, the listeners, for joining us for the Prosper Group Week in Review podcast. If you like the show, please subscribe and share with your friends. And we are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Thanks and have a great week.